Hi all, hi all, Jean here. Well, if you're new to my channel, I am hanging out in Niagara Falls, although I'm just in a neighborhood and it just started to rain, but I wanted to do my video as well. So I decided to do it in the rain, right? I have my mic and yeah, so I'm on the road. I'm just walking back to the house. I'm hoping that this rain kind of is over by the time I get to the house. Oh my God. Anyways, um, yesterday I was down at the fall area yesterday. I was doing my tourist thing and I went into Starbucks to um to get a matcha. And I got one of the, they have this little, it's about this size. It's called Tall, but it is a small cup, one of the small matcha. And so I order my matcha, and then the young woman say, "Oh, it is $9." And I thought, "Excuse me, I am sorry. My money do not want to pay $9 right now for, um, a matcha." And such a small matcha at that. So I decided not to get the matcha, right? I was like, nope, I'm not getting that. And, twice, this happened to me twice yesterday. Once at the Starbucks place, and I went into Goodwill and I wanted one of their little shopping bag, and the woman said it was $2 for the shopping bag, and I was like, it is a 25 cents bag. I'm not going to pay $2 for this bag. And I'm saying all of this to say there are times when you don't need to spend the money. And I think for travelers, one of the reasons a lot of the time people do not travel is because of that exact thing, right? Everybody is like, it's too expensive to travel. And what I'm finding is that, yes, it may cost you a little bit of money to travel. I think the biggest expense in traveling is your ticket and your accommodation. Now, there are a lot of ways to get cheap accommodation, or what I consider to be affordable accommodation. You don't always have to pay lots of money for accommodation, and there's lots of way to figure out how to get um, inexpensive flight as well. It depends on where you're going and if you make a plan. And it's always good to make a plan before you buy your ticket to go anywhere. You want to make a plan, you want to have an idea where you're going to go, and so you can do that. And I remember when I decided to go to Australia, I give myself an entire year before I decided um, to buy my ticket. I give myself a year and I give myself time before I decided to buy the ticket. I'm just coming up on the step here of the house that I'm living in, but I'm not going to go in yet. I'm going to just stay here and finish my video because yeah, it's there's people inside and it's not the best to do. I can't believe how much I just washed this jacket and it's getting another wash from the from the rain. So what I am going to say is this: when you are traveling, give yourself time to plan, give yourself time to get excited, give yourself time to go through all your travel books and take it from there. So me going to Australia, I end up going to Australia on my own at the age of 55, not knowing anyone in Australia. And if you know anything about Australia, people will tell you that Australia is very, very expensive. And that is true. Almost any big city in the world right now, unless you go into Asia or one of those countries where you probably going to get a lot more for your money, Australia is not one of those places. And I was going to Australia and Bali, and I had decided at that time it is my only time that I may be able to go to such a faraway place, being a woman from the Caribbean and traveling on my own to such a faraway place. So one of the things I did, I at the time, well, while I was planning, because as I say, I plan almost a year before I go, and I was in a group with some Australians, with some people. I never met them, and I think I was in a 6 week group program with these people. And I decided to ask if there is anyone who is willing to put me up when I get to Australia. And one of the women said yes. She has no problem putting me up. And she was from Byron, no, not Byron Bay. She was, where was she in Australia? I went to Brisbane. So she was from Brisbane on the Sunshine Coast. So when I arrived, so I planned my trip, and so I got her to put me up for. Actually, she put me up for almost 2 weeks, quite a number of days. I think it was about 10 days. And prior to getting to Brisbane, I arrived in Sydney. So you have to picture this, right? I got my ticket. I had another friend. Now, prior to all of that, I would not have even thought or even think about going to Australia. But because one of my living in Banff, Alberta, we get a lots and lots of people from Australia that comes to do holiday, a lot of holiday workers, a lot of students that come in for a gap year. It is a huge tourist town. It's one of Canada leading national park, which is Banff, Alberta. So we get so many people from all over the world, and I had a lot of friends from Australia, lots of friends from Australia. And I used to work with one of them, and she still is actually a travel agent. And so when I was buying my ticket and I told her that I'm coming down to Australia, she decided to help me out. So she got me a flight from um, Calgary to Sydney, and then flying from Sydney to the Outback, and from the Outback, flying from the Outback to Brisbane. Where did I go from the Outback? No, I fly from the Outback to Adelaide, and then from Adelaide, I fly from Adelaide to Brisbane. And when I left Brisbane, I fly from Brisbane to um, where did I go? Bali on my own, right? So she got me, the in flight in Australia was very reasonable. I can afford it. So I did, yeah, it was quite reasonable. It was like $100, $150 per flight around Australia itself. So at the time, and we are talking about 2017, I went. Yeah, so I ended up going 2017, November of 2017. I went because it was around my birthday and I was giving myself that gift for my birthday. Also, it was a gift, an after divorce kind of a gift. So I got to, so before I left, I flied from Calgary and I went fly from Calgary to Vancouver, and I stayed in Vancouver for about 8 hours before my flight at midnight to go to Sydney. And when I got to Vancouver, oh my God, you have to picture it. As I said before, when I get to Vancouver, I was so scared. I was so scared. I actually almost talked myself out from going to Australia, literally. I spent, because I had such a long layover in Vancouver, I spent most of my time in a parking lot. I went up to, they have this high rise, and the parking lot was right up on, like, I don't know, like the 10th floor or something from this high rise. And I went up to the top parking lot, and I was walking around the parking lot. And as I walk around the parking lot, I am like, oh my God, it's so much better for me to go home and go to my bed. I have never fly for 15 hours. I don't know what that is going to be like. And I was talking myself out of my flight, literally, because I was so scared. Ultimately, I decided, because I already bought the ticket and I am going to be afraid and get on the plane anyway, I decide to get onto the plane anyway, right? So I got to So what I did, I went into the inside of the airport in Vancouver. Eventually, I went through custom, go inside the airport. I decided to spend the day getting my nails done. I got my nails done. I hang out for a while, and finally at midnight we board the flight, and it was a pack flight, right? It was full. And as I don't know if you would say luck, because I'm not really a person that truly believe in luck. Um, I end up sitting between these two older gentlemen from America. They were from Seattle, and they flew from Seattle to Vancouver, because I don't know if their flight was cheaper that way. What one of them told me was that they do this every day, because every year, because they had family in in Sydney. So this is something that they do year to year. And when they book their seat, they actually always book one in the window seat and one in the aisle seat. And there is they always leave the middle seat just in case nobody comes. But I was there. Anyways, for the 15 hours that we flew, I think me and those two gentlemen, we became family. We chat, we sleep, we eat, we watch movies. Um, we had a good time. And the truth is, and this is something for people who is afraid to fly, and people who, do not know what it's going to be like when they're traveling. The truth is, when I got in and I sat down, the minute time I entered the plane and I found my seat, I said to myself, well, my friend, you have no choice. This is it. This is where you are, and you have no choice. There is no more going back. I couldn't go back even if I wanted to. And to be honest with you, we fly without a problem. Like, there was, like, honest, it was like just being sitting on a couch in the air, literally. And that was a surprise to me, because I had never, I mean, I had flew before to Europe, but Europe is an 8-hour flight. And when I was going to Europe, I was even more afraid than when I took the flight to Australia. That is before getting on the plane, of course. Um, Anyways, so I flew, got to Sydney, and my first stop was, I stayed at one of the HI international hostel, because international hostels, um, anyone can stay in an international hostel. The international hostels, for the last couple of years, many years now, they have changed their hostel from just a youth hostel to all is welcome hostel. So you can take your family, you can rent your own personal room, and so on and so forth. I was fortunate. I stayed in a room that had 4 beds, and there was only one other person with me there. I spent 3 days in Sydney going around. I went to all the famous places, all the tourist places. And after being there for 3 days, and of course, in a hostel, you can cook. There is always kitchen and stove and all the things that you need in a hostel that you would find at home. You find it in a hostel. So you can cook, you can meet people. It's a real social kind of place. I recommend it if you want to travel for really, really, really inexpensive accommodation. I 100% recommend staying at hostels. The hostels are very clean. It's very well looked after. They usually have security. Any and anybody cannot just walk into your hostel. You get to have, they give you a clean sheet, a clean pillowcase. And so when you go in, you can make your own bed. You always know you're guaranteed to have that. And it's, for me personally, all the hostels I've been in has always been so, so clean. And I've been in hostels all over Europe and literally, in a sense, in Australia as well. After I left Sydney, I took a flight, a small plane to the outback because I wanted to see the outback. You know, I grew up on watching movie like Crocodile Dundee and, all these really nice, men from the outback. So I wanted to go in the outback. I had a choice to go and see the Aries Rock or Uluru. They call it Uluru, the Aries Rock, or to go to um, what is the other place? I think where the reef, but I choose to go to the Outback instead. And when I get to the Outback, I did the same thing. There was a beautiful hotel, but the hotel itself have an area, a hostel area. And so I stayed in that hostel for another, I think I stayed in the Outback for 2 or 3 days as well. And that hostel was very small. The room was very small. And I stayed in a room with how many beds? I think I stayed in a room with 4 beds as well, but I was fortunate. When I arrived, I was alone there for the first night. The second night, no, I think when I was leaving, someone came. So I was actually, although there was 4 beds, I was in a room by myself. I booked the time that I went to Australia was what they call, um, it wasn't as touristy, although it was, but not as touristy, that you how it usually is. I think it was springtime around there, or was it fall? I think it was springtime because November there is usually going into the summertime. I think something like that, right? Yeah, it was springtime, and I stayed at the Outback. Had a really lovely time. Got onto I did some sunrise tour, sunset tour. I went to Uluru. I went to see the Aries Rock. Had a fabulous time. I think I ate alligator. Maybe I had some wild exotic meat. And when I left the Outback, I ended up going to I flew from there to Adelaide, and that's where I met up with my friend from Banff, who is a travel agent. So I went to her house and I stayed with her for a few days as well. And I was really fortunate. Again, I got my own room at her place. We went out, we just traveled around Adelaide. I went to all the winery places and drank wine and the beach, and it was just an amazing, amazing travel. And it was so nice to catch up with my friend that left. She left Banff, I think, in 2001, somewhere around there, or it was around 2000 that she left, and I met her in 2017. So that's tell you how long we remained friends. And I stayed with her for a while, and then when I left, I flew to Brisbane, and that woman that I have never met before, I got to her place. I took a bus, one of those airport bus that drop you right off where you stay. She came down, carried my luggage up to her place, and she refused to take money from me for any reason. She refused, and we were right on the Sunshine Coast, so that was amazing. And then I had another friend that was living in the hinterland around the Sunshine Coast, but in Australia they call, I guess, the countryside the hinterlands. So I went up to see her in the hinterlands, and then um, I spent some time with that friend in the hinterlands. I think I spent a day or two with her and came back down to Brisbane to on the Sunshine Coast with the woman that I was staying. And again, this lady gave me her room and went and, shack up with her kids in their kids' room. And when I left the Sunshine Coast, I traveled down to the Gold Coast to another friend of mine's. Her parents, her mom, live in the Gold Coast. So I went to see her mom and I spent a few days at her mom house. And when I left her mom house, I ended up going to Byron Bay to spend a day. I spent one night in Byron Bay. I stayed at a hostel again. And when I left Byron Bay, I came back to Brisbane and fly out to go to Bali. Anyways, that is my tip about traveling. You have a choice what you spend your money on. You do not want to spend $9 on a coffee, and you do not want to spend $2 on a plastic bag that you can pick up any other place. So I recommend, if you're traveling, to really and truly take a moment and have a plan. I am here in Niagara Falls right now, and I knew I was coming to see my friend who is not well, but I also knew that I had to plan it, and I knew since January that I was going to come here in March, so I prepare myself, and I did the same thing that I do when I'm traveling a long distance. What I did for this is that I actually made sure I bought my ticket since early February. So my ticket was really, I got a very good price on my ticket. So it's always best to have a plan and to buy your ticket really early. Give yourself at least 3 months before you buy your tickets, unless you're traveling in the same country. I mean, I was traveling from Calgary to Toronto. So I didn't really need to have 3, 4 months out. Plus, I only decided to come here in January. So although it was a quick decision, I still had a plan. So have a plan and subscribe to my channel, like my channel, and yeah, share. And don't forget to do less and be more of who you are. I'm going to say goodbye.